Good afternoon, everyone. So, today our topic is communication skills, the most important part of our life, that is, how we communicate with the other people and the way we put forth our ideas, the thoughts we have is really, really important. And the illusion or the perception we have about communication is that it has already taken place. And it is a fact that subconsciously goes into our head, which is completely wrong. So, today we are going to talk in detail about communication skills. What are its objective? What is the definition? What are its types? And what things you need to take into consideration when we are communicating with the other people. So, let's move ahead with objective of communication skills. So today our purpose is to define and understand the communication and its processes, overcoming any kind of filter or barrier we have at the same time. And communication is always a two-way process. A two-way process means if I am speaking, there is somebody to listen to, right? If you are speaking, there is somebody to listen to. So it can never be one way. So communication, please understand, is always a two-way process. One who is a speaker or the sender, the another who is the receiver or the listener. Coming to the definition, so communication skills is basically sending, giving, or exchanging of information, ideas, thoughts that we have, which may be expressed through words, through writing, and of course through our body language. So our body language actually comprises of non-verbal communication, which includes our eye contact, our hands, our entire body, our appearance, our dressing sense. So everything actually communicates. It's not only our words, it's everything of us communicate from head to toe. When we talk about types of communication, we have basically two types of communication. One comes as verbal and another comes as non-verbal. Verbal is basically the spoken, oral, and unwritten way of communicating. It makes use of words, vocabulary, numbers, symbols, and is properly structured in sentences. You can take an example of interjections. You can take an example of question mark sentences. You can take an example of any common type of full stop sentences. So all these are form the part of verbal communication. Now, when verbal, or I would say when the words or the sentences are communicated by your body also. Now you would say how something can be communicated by our body. It is like when our body is helping the other person understand what we want to speak, when our eyes is helping the other people or the audience to understand what our message is about, or when you are practicing listening to others and active listening basically. So that forms something called as non-verbal communication, and it is language. Please make sure language is not the only source of communication. There are other means also, and one of that is non-verbal communication. So whenever we are communicating verbally with the people, we need to be specific. Whatever we want to convey should be to the point, neither vague nor exaggerated, completely, I would say, clear. And to communicate your message, you should be able to modulate your voice levels from high to low, low to high, as you might have seen in the lyrics of a music where you have the beats going up and down, right? So you should be modulating your voice accordingly. Second thing, whenever someone is speaking, you are not supposed to interrupt the other person. Why? Because when we interrupt, we are disturbing the flow of thoughts of the other person. You might be in hurry to get the answer of something you want, but maybe that person is going to give you the answer of the same question you have in your mind right now just 5 minutes later. So whenever you have questions during any lecture or any seminar, just note it down, but do not interrupt the flow, because at the end you would be asked the questions you have. Always listen to others. We say that incomplete knowledge, I would say, we say na, incomplete knowledge is always dangerous. So that is the same process. Incomplete listening, or I would say passive listening, where we aren't actually listening to the other people and we are lost somewhere. that is always harmful, and it is not and is always the worst part while communicating. Whenever you are communicating with anyone, maintain eye contact. Be courteous that the other person has lent you an ear to listen to, right? Or somebody has spoken to you. Always be thankful for the same. Give other people time to speak. Whether the audience is younger to you or elder to you hardly matters. Give them time to speak. Show your sincerity. Talk appropriately. And never ever take criticisms on your heart, because when you take criticisms on your heart, you would be demotivated. Take it as a stepping stone to success. Failures are definitely a stepping stone to success. You would see an automatic improvement in yourself when you in yourself you would be motivated to do the best, to give your best performance. What are the points of nonverbal communication? Your gestures. Gestures means the way your hands move, your body posture, the way you sit, the way you stand, right? What are your expressions of your face, your eyes, whether they are making any contact with the people, with the audience you're talking or not? What is your clothing? Is it less formal than the people you are talking to, or more formal? So please maintain, either it should be equal to the audience you are catering to or more than the audience you are catering to. It should never be lesser than the audience. What is the kind of voice you are using? Is it aggressive or is it assertive? How you are speaking? Are you being polite and convincing in your tone, or are you being aggressive and trying to dominate the entire scenario? Speak with your emotions, with the rhythm, with your complete emotions out. That would bring in the connection with the audience you are catering to. Always lay stress on the words high, low, high. That's called as motivator. So here's an example how you can like walk confidently. You can look always forward, never towards the ground, right? Keep your chin parallel to the ground. Gently tighten your stomach. It's not holding your breath, just tightening your stomach. Walk smoothly with heel and toe formation like this, right? And you need to hold your head high, not arrogant, not like this or not like this, but just straight. And your shoulders should be and your feet should be shoulder length apart. Along with that, your shoulders should be in a way that you are confident, not slouch like this or not excessively bent towards the back. So your spine, indirect, I would say your spine should be erect. So your shoulder should be aligned, that your spine is erect, and your arm should sway normally, neither more nor less. Walk confidently. Talk about is what are the elements of communication. I, as a sender, is communicating a message. What are communication skills via a spoken channel, and you are the receiver. Now, these four elements being clear, fifth element being the receiver needs to give the sender a feedback whether that person has understood whatever we are trying to convey or not. Because feedback is something taken either positively or negatively, should be is for improvement, like what sender needs to improve according to the target audience it is catering to, because every audience is different and everyone has come from a variety or diversity of cultures and backgrounds and upbringing. So it may be possible that some students get the message, some do not. So keeping that thing in mind, we want maximum, or I would say 100% of the students to get our information. So we need to know, and we need to have the feedback how many of you have understood the information. So that's why feedback is really important. Coming to the most important part of today's lecture, that is 7 C's of communication, and I would be taking through these 7 C's of clarity, completeness, conciseness, consideration, creativeness, courtesy, and correctness, as called as principles of communication through a video. So what are the do's? From all the slides, from all the information we have read, let's come for the do's of an effective communication. Summarizing what are the do's and don'ts for effective communication. The first one being Always express your expectations to the other so that your message is clear and practical without having any barrier. Always use less words like never, always, forever. Absolute words are a big no-no. We may use maybe, probability, right, and accurate words which everybody can understand. I cannot say that all you always understand me. No, that's a complete absolute word. Some people may disagree with this fact. Be good, attentive, and always an active listener. Always filter the information correctly, not according to your barriers, or may it be language barrier, may it be cultural barrier, may it be, I would say, physical barrier, but according to the reality of the life before before passing on anything to anybody. So establish one communication channel and always eliminate the intermediaries. I hope you must have heard about a game called Chinese whispers. Like whenever I try to communicate the same sentence from first person of the row, and when it goes to the 10th person of the row, the message I started with is completely changed at the end. Now that is called as lack of listening. That is called as so many channels. So every channel has its own barrier and it adds on to that information or subtracts something from that information, so the message comes out is completely different. So here I would say that there's a Socrates three filter test. You should always follow that Socrates three filter test whenever somebody is going to tell you any information. And those three filters are filter of truth, filter of utility, and filter of, I would say, usefulness. So filter of truth means, is that information you are telling me true? If it is not true, you need not listen. Second thing, is the information you are telling me useful to me at any cost? That is a filter of usefulness. If it may be useful, the other person is doubtful on the case that it may or may not be useful, then you need not listen. And the third filter, that is the filter of utility. Would you get something to pass on this information to me, right? Or is this information having any benefit? I would say the filter of benefit, or you can say advantage. Is it beneficial for the other person you are giving the information to me about, right? The third person you are talking right now with me, would it benefit to him or her somehow? If it is no, then there is no need to listen. So always be precise in whatever you are taking from the other people. Pass on through these three filter tests and always take the information which is for your benefit. Okay, we have we have already heard that we should follow the you attitude at all occasions, because we need to view the situation in the eyes, according to the eyes of speaker. Maintain eye contact or write the instructions if we are talking about writing. We should be clear, not accented, and avoid any kind of miscommunications of words and semantic noise. And we can ask for the repetition. As I said, when we talk about feedback, we can ask something to be repeated wherever we are in demand for that. Make the organization or the place you are working, you are studying, more flexible, dynamic, because change is something which is permanent and it is always welcome. Always get and give a proper feedback. Going to the don'ts of communication. Do not be a selective listener. Means do not listen what you want to listen, right? Listen what is basically, I would say, as per the three filter test, is a truth, the principle of truthfulness, the principle of utility, and the principle of benefit, right? So if it follows yes in all the conditions, then listen. Obviously studying follows all the three conditions, and you don't need to be a fixer in every situation where you are trying to find out the fault in others, you can say structure, other person, or others way of doing the things. Just relax and be your own self. There's you cannot be the fixer, you cannot change the entire world. Better change yourself. Never be a daydreamer, and never use from one person to the third person you want to convey the information. It should either be 1 2 3 or 1 2 3, right? There should not be a long chain of communication. Do not use technical jargons which is not understood by the other person, because it is considered that when you are using such words you are avoiding that person. You do not want that person to be the part of your communication. So do not jump to conclusions immediately. Please listen, respond. Try responding to the situation rather than reacting. As discussed earlier, never ever interrupt the speaker and distract him by asking too many irrelevant questions. So by now you must have understood when we how to communicate, why effective communication is necessary, and now when you have understood the basics, why it is important, why you have to deliver effective communications, you can practice it by improvising your strengths and identifying it. And the initial step is charity begins at home. Always start by practicing it with your friends, with your colleagues, because they would give you constructive criticism in the areas you need an improvement. Your friends who are with you in the need time as well as when you are at the most vulnerable stage, they would be able to give you the best of ideas. Another thing, you can practice improving your communication habits, which includes verbal, non-verbal, your body language. You may also go ahead by attending communication skills workshop, classes, and always find out and take advantage of the opportunities that you get when you communicate with the people. So ahead to the questions. I guess by now you must be able to answer what is communication, what are its types, what are the 7 C's of communication. You can explain them with examples. We have discussed 10 barriers and you would be able to explain just 3, why body language is important while communicating your message, etc. You can also refer the book Work Skills Handbook by Karen Holmes, which was published in 2011. And you can, the basics of improving communication is when you go through current updates, newspapers, and watch and implement those video interviews and YouTube lectures whenever you learn. So, whenever you learn something, try incorporating. Just watching won't help you. Thank you and have a nice day.